I think sometimes we forget. I don't necessarily mention Shulman as a historical figure. I mean, he's not Tilly Walker here. Somebody like that. He's not, I don't know, Ed Shockey or, but, or Dale Alexander, or, one of those guys right there, But I would just point this out. Here's a guy who, of course, was part of the glory days, Alan LaForce and all that. Joe McPherson mentioned he was an assistant coach. When I went to UH, he was, saw this young guy running around UH. What's he doing there, Only a few years older than me. And takes Chattanooga to the NCAA tournament. It's interesting. I want to talk about the Alabama-Huntsville also, very unique athletic program. Like I said, playing hockey. There are 2 varsity hockey teams. Now, every SEC school has a hockey team, okay, but it's club. The Ice Vols were actually the first hockey team in the South, 1966, okay? Yeah. But Alabama-Huntsville, as well as Arizona State, are the schools that give out scholarships, much like who's good in hockey. Notre Dame does, Let's see, and Ivy League schools do. Robert Morris, but Pennsylvania, that was big when Robert Morris says. I think Penn State now has a varsity hockey team. But yeah, and now you have, I said, that Camp Talbot. Think about that. You've got basically the goalie for the fly backup from Alabama. That's very unique right there. But yeah, so anyway, John Shulman, now the basketball coach down there. And of course, we wanted to mention this because of the 22-0 game under Alan LaForce that turned into almost an ETSU victory. You could look at that, maybe that 22-0 was the first sign that, okay, this isn't going to be a team that's going to make the NCAAs anymore. You'd like to think, though, that leading late showed a little bit, and I'm sure that Jayhawks called off the Dogs, thought they had won at 22-0. Here's this team from the Southern Conference. I mean, I'm sure there, but it's one thing to, let down your guard a little bit. It's another to lose the game, to lose the lead outright with 4 minutes left. So, there you are. Also a reminder that tomorrow, the Southern Conference Commissioner, and that is Jim Schaus, he will be the new one. John Imarino is in his last month. He's still the commissioner, but we will have on Schaus here, and he's going to tell us about his hopes and dreams and visions and so on and so forth for the Southern Conference, which I think could go either way. I think that a SoCon team could have won a national title, Davidson, Steph Curry, if Bob McKillop gets out of the high school mindset and said, no, Curry must gets the play for Curry. Take the final shot. That's what I think. And that he doesn't waste time. You get the ball, 16 seconds left, one possession, they just sort of lollygag up there. No! You got to make something happen. And then you say, well, we didn't want any time left for Kansas if they scored. Trust me. You're much better off. Wait, there's an open bucket. 7 seconds left. And then playing defense than you are running down the clock, trying to... I mean, come on. It's not a tie game here. All right. So we'll have on Jim Schaus tomorrow. New SoCon Commissioner. That's at 12:30. By the way, for the people in Unicoi County listening... Amy Engel, the former star basketball player for ETSU and Unicoi County, now working in real estate down, in fact, she's going to, he tells me, find their home down in Huntsville for John Shulman. So that's kind of fun. Talked a little bit about baseball earlier on. Yes, there's an NBA Finals game tonight. Okay, whatever. The Stanley Cup playoffs, they begin again on Thursday. I wanted to talk a little bit more about baseball. There's been that story about the fan that was hit by a foul ball and the Astros. I've even heard some people that have blamed the parents. They shouldn't have been putting their small child in such a seat, please. Please. There's now recently been a fan struck at an Indianapolis Indians, that's AAA, game on Sunday. Fan sitting along the first base line when he was struck by a ball, treated by on-site EMTs, but had to be taken away by a local hospital on a gurney. I've seen fan injuries. I've seen people, I forget if it was a bat or a ball, hit right before me. It is not pleasant. And they didn't return, and they were hospitalized. You know, there's the protective netting behind home plate, which is obviously necessary. There's a push to extend it foul pole to foul pole. There was a fan who died at a Dodgers game. It's just time. I know. I think about all the baseball games I've been to. I've probably been to more than 200 Major League games. I do understand, you know, we want to get the foul ball and all this, and, you know, what's the net. But then again, you know, I've always preferred sitting behind home plate. Who doesn't? Or the protective netting saves your life, than you do, say, in a bleacher seats. Because I do wonder about that. What happens when somebody's struck in the face by a home run, you know, and all this. Incidentally, that had happened. Here's Billson's knowledge of baseball history. Almost 100 years ago, let's say about 90, there's actually in the back of the ticket that you buy that the ball club says that they're not liable for injuries if you are struck by a batted ball or a, say, errant bat. You know, swing and a miss, you lose control of your bat and it goes into the stands. I mean, you've seen that, or a broken back goes into the stands, whatever. You're not supposedly, you know, of course that's the thing. I mean, you got type at the back of the ticket. Is that really going to prevent a lawsuit? Really? I mean, you know, probably not. And I do know where it stems from. It's from back in the day, Sonny Jim Bottomley of the St. Louis Cardinals once drove in 12 runs in a game, which is the all-time record, tied with Mark Whitten. I think they're both both Cardinals, not Tigers, Cardinals. I'm thinking too much of the, you know, Gas House Gang, and they played the Tigers in the 1934 World Series and all that. Okay, but not St. Louis Cardinal, long time ago slugger. Sonny Jim Bottomley, said to be the greatest fungo hitter of all time. Well, there's also Jimmy Reese, who could supposedly fungo batting practice. So I guess he's the second greatest fungo. Anyway. Baseball name from the past. He's the reason why there's that type on the back of the ticket saying, you know, we're not liable if you're hit by a foul ball and get injured. Which, again, I don't know if that ever stands up and all this. But the idea was, years and years ago, he hit a home run, and it struck a fan in the face, and the fan sued. And I'm told the charge read, in part, he swung at the pitch deliberately. Yes, he did! And Sonny Jim Bottomley, had to take the stand, and he said that his testimony, he said, I don't know if the fan won or if he lost. I really don't. I only know that the testimony said he was only trying for a hit, said Sonny Jim Bottomley, and there has never been any malice in any of my home runs before. So there you go. But no, I just think it's time for the netting and all that. I think that we'll get used to it. You know, say what you will. I just, you know, a fan died last year. Come on. So you're not going to get a foul ball. What are you going to do with the foul ball? Think about that. I'm Marky Billson. It's Tri-City Sports. And, of course, we have the baseball draft. We're talking about the local players that were taken and all this. We got the later rounds here today. Scott Boras has an interesting quote out. And he's been talking about the draft. And he'd like a restructured draft. I'll tell you about that after this.